folks, welcome to the Blacksmith Shop. We are back in operation. As you've probably seen in the last few weeks, we've been shut down repairing the bellows. And also, as you saw just a minute ago, it is back in operation. The bellows is working good. We have a fire built in the forge. And we're really pleased to have it back up in operation. Today is a very warm day and we are sweating a lot, but we just wanted to let you guys know about us being back at it, back in the shop, and we wanted to show you how this thing's working. It works fine, and we're glad you're with us. We're going to just to show that it is heating up and that we do have it in good shape, operating shape. And by the way, our fire is kind of small, granted, because we don't want to build a big fire like we would normally operate with. We want to give this thing time to cure a little bit better. We're warming up the twir. That's a cast steel object that the air blows out of. It comes from the bellows through the twir into the fire. And we're warming that twir up just a little bit by keeping a low, small fire built. But while we're at it, we're just going to show us a brief demonstration of something that James Stevens is here with us. And he's going to hold the piece while I punch a hole in it. So we're just going to show how the blacksmith punched a hole in a piece of hot steel or hot iron. And that's just a small demonstration to share that with you. So let's get that piece hot. And when we got it, James, I'm going to want you to go ahead and get as close as you can into the camera, and I will operate the punch and the hammer, and if you'll just follow my lead. We're going to talk about the principles of punching iron and steel. So the punch is just something, a tapered tool, and what we're going to do is go about 2/3 of the way into the hot piece and take the punch out, flip it over, and punch the slug out. This punch will cool that little disc-shaped slug that we push down and compress. And there's a couple things you're going to notice, and we'll talk about them in just a second. But let's go ahead and get it done. It's ready, so go ahead and lay it on the anvil. And we're going to. So my job. Okay, turn it over. You see that shadow?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it didn't punch all the way through. Flip it back over. Go back. It's still hot.
There it went.
I'll pick that up and look at it here in just a second. Flip it back. Now, let's get a good look at that. I'm going to cool this off. And I'm also going to pick the slug up, and we'll talk about what makes this work. Yes, thank you, Casey. Your shadow, I think your shadow's got us covered up. Okay. Now this is a slug that came out of this piece. This is a 1/4 inch thick, and by the time you figure that burr that's on it, this is only about a 1/16 of an inch thick. So the slug is thinner than the piece. So where did that material go? It's spread out, and thus you see a bulge here and here. So punching a hole the way the blacksmith did will leave a stronger joint, a stronger piece. So if you want to try to discern whether or not it's drilled or punched, the drilled will always remain the same size and you're removing 100% of the material, whereas a punched hole, you are leaving probably 75% of that volume of what the hole ends up being. So that little slug is thinner and smaller, and it just punches out. It shears its way through, and that's why you see that burr. So that cooled off faster than this. That cooled, and it serves as its own cutter. And the punch just merely pushes it through, and it shears its way out the back side. Actually out the front side. Because we punched it here first, and then we drove through this side, and that's the slug. So that's got a little bit of a burr on the hole that can be cleaned off. But anyway, that just shows you, we're just picking a random piece, a piece of mild steel, to show you how it works, how the punch works. It's a very simple process. Part of the working mechanism of punching a hole is within the piece of material. It's not just the punch, and it's not just the blacksmith. Part of it is the temperature difference between the slug, what will be the slug when it's pushed out, and the surrounding material. So once the punch, which is cool, room temperature, makes contact and is driven through it, and then it is hot still, but so it's drifting outward, thinning a little part down below the punch. Flip it over, and that is the slug. And we can see a little halo or a little shadow that defines right where that hole is, the now upside down piece. And we just go right back through, and it shears its way through. So it's quite an interesting technique that the blacksmith had to use very, very often. It was used much more often than drilling. But we wanted to share that with you. Two things: how to punch a hole, and that we've got our forge back up and running, our bellows in good shape. So we should be good for years to come.
Cool.
Any questions? Do we have any comments or questions?
No.
If we have any photos, we might put them in the comments below. If y'all have any questions, please ask, and we'll try to go ahead and follow through and comment on.
We're good.
But we're glad you're with us again, and we won't be in here next week. We got a lot of things going on, so we're gonna have to just forego next week's meeting. But after that, we'll be back in business. So thank you for being with us again for the Historic Arkansas Museum. I'm Lin Rhea.